So, how much is your home really worth compared to what you pay in property tax? Real estate expert Rick Sadle with Keller Williams Realty and SadleRealEstate.com is with us. Rick, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
So, I got into a conversation here actually in Alpha around the KXL hallways with a couple of salespeople who were targeting homeowners, and they were talking about assessed value versus appraised value or market value here. So I thought I'd get a refresher on different kinds of home value from you, our expert. So describe, if you can, how these things work together.
Uh, let's start
Ready,
with
go.
that's a complicated question. So in Oregon, property taxes are based on what they call either real market value or maximum assessed value, whichever is less. Now, the fact that the state calls it real market value can make it super confusing because it actually has nothing to do with what a buyer will pay, right? It's supposed to be what the state determines a reasonable buyer might pay. And actually, that can vary wildly from what an actual buyer will pay. So the state has a formula for that, but it isn't always the most accurate formula. Then we have appraised value. That's determined by an appraiser when a buyer buys a home. And that doesn't have anything to do with tax assessed value. So totally clear as mud.
Yeah, we're going to need about 4 hours to get through this. Seriously, assessed value for property tax purposes, is that usually less and sometimes a lot less?
Well, I mean, it can be a lot less because, like we just talked about, the only person who can actually determine a value is the buyer. Like, what are they willing to pay? Then that's what it's worth, not some tax assessor. So much can be affected by market conditions, right? The tax assessor is not in the day-to-day trenches of selling real estate, right? Let's take, for example, the market in 2021. How could they know COVID was going to affect property values so much? We had houses selling by $100,000 more than they were listed for, and at that time, that's what they were worth. So it's pretty hard for a tax assessor to know.
Yeah. What if your tax assessed value of your home is more than what you think you could actually sell it for?
I mean, there's a process for that, but like all things state government, it's a challenging process, right? I have heard of a few people who can challenge their property taxes successfully, but not a lot.
Okay. It really kind of brings another conversation here about appraisals. We've talked about that before. First, give us some reminders here and a checklist when it comes to appraisals.
Well, yeah, an appraiser is when an appraiser gets involved in a real estate transaction and they try and figure out the security interest for the bank, right? How much can they lend on? And so for a home seller, when they're getting ready for an appraisal, they want to make their house as pretty as possible. They want to do all the things to make an appraiser feel like the property is worth as much as possible.
Yeah, people, our listeners right now, they're like, what? How much do I have to pay in taxes, right?
Right, exactly. That's the big question.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff, Rick. Thank you.
Thanks.
That is Rick Sadle, our real estate expert with Keller Williams Realty and SadleRealEstate.com.